It's time for MacBreak Weekly. Andy, Rene, and Jason Snell are here to talk about the latest Apple news. There's a new Macintosh, a new MacBook Pro, too. We'll talk about the first update for the Apple Watch and a whole lot more. MacBreak Weekly is next.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for MacBreak Weekly is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 455, recorded Tuesday, May 19th, 2015. Force Touch Everything. MacBreak Weekly is brought to you by SmartThings. SmartThings lets you monitor, control, and automate your home from wherever you are using your smartphone. Right now, SmartThings is offering MacBreak Weekly listeners 10% off any home security or solution kits and get free shipping in the U.S. when you go to smartthings.com/twit. And don't forget to use the offer code TWIT at checkout. And by lynda.com, the online learning platform with over 3,000 on-demand video courses to help you strengthen your business, technology, and creative skills. For a free 10-day trial, visit lynda.com/MacBreak. That's lynda.com/MacBreak. And by IT Pro TV. A good IT Pro is always learning, and IT Pro TV is the resource to keep your IT skills up to date with engaging and informative video tutorials. For a free 7-day trial and 30% off the lifetime of your account, go to itpro.tv/MacBreak and use the code MacBreak30 at checkout. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news, and there is Apple news this week. So let us say hello to our panelists. As always, Andy Ihnatko from the Chicago Sun-Times. He joins us via his pixelated studios in beautiful New England.
Beautiful downtown New England.
Beautiful downtown New England. Yes. From beautiful downtown Quebec, it's Rene Ritchie. iMore.com. Hello, Rene. And Jason Snell came up. Thank you.
I'm
for
here
being here.
in
Let me see
person.
your shirt. What do you got?
It's a dragon.
I specialize in interpreting geek shirts.
This is the logo of my Dungeons and Dragons podcast.
I was going to say, it
so
doesn't.
I'm promoting.
Yeah, it doesn't really.
Promoting.
A lot of times you can look at it and you say, oh, I get it. You're doing a Star Wars meets.
It's a dragon. Yeah.
But this is not. It's not Game of Thrones or anything.
No, it's Total Party Kill.
Total Party Kill. TVKit.
Yeah.
And where would we find that?
On
fine show?
theincomparable.com.
How many shows you got now?
Who can count? I can't count that high. Like 10, something like that.
The most recent one, we were talking about it yesterday on iOS Today.
Oh, the David Letterman episode.
Yeah. I still haven't listened to it, but,
Andy Ihnatko featured prominently in that one.
Yeah, I bet.
Indeed, yes.
I think we probably all, I don't know about you, Rene, but I don't know, do they have Letterman in Canada? Probably not.
Yes. Yeah,
they do?
It's great. Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome.
Wow. You have electricity now?
We do.
Yeah.
We generate it we have to stay warm, Leo, so you're incentivized to run really fast on the treadmill that generates the
The
electricity.
Letterman show in Canada is only about half an hour long because they cut out all the rude parts.
Yeah. He's a nice,
No,
he's a nice cranky man.
It's because of the earlier harvest.
Lots of tributes this week. The couple of some really good articles in the New York Times about. What's interesting about Letterman is many of the staffers have been with him all 33 years.
Yeah, they were showing some clips from the morning show from 1980, and it's like Biff Henderson, and I mean it's the same people.
He's been
Not only that, but like a lot of staff writers, a lot of staff producers, staff editors. It's like there's one of the first friends I met on the internet was Richard Scheckman, who's a film coordinator on like the late night show, and he's still working there today. It's amazing. It's like a civil service job back when like civil service jobs were secure.
Well, and they're also, of course, very puzzled about what happens after Wednesday. The last show is tomorrow.
Yeah, although at least for the people who've been with him for 33 years, I mean, they're all.
Are they retiring? Probably.
I mean, they may all be retiring.
Yeah. Paul Schaefer. They had an interview in the Times with Paul Schaefer, and he said, he said it was nice to have something to do at 4 o'clock every afternoon.
Well, if you're a musician, you got to figure that's a pretty great gig, right?
No
I mean,
kidding.
you have some steady income, and you're playing with a band with the same members for all that time, and then it's not like it's such a long grind that you don't have time to do other stuff too.
And you're also living in New York, and you also get to play with pretty much the best musicians in the world that keep coming through. And you have time off that you can. It must be a pretty interesting gig.
Yeah,
I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that yesterday. What is the difference between a musician that has an absolute rock steady regular job day after day versus somebody who their schedule is always completely their own. I wonder how that affects their creativity and how that affects their performing.
Yeah, Schaefer was saying just the other day when he was on as a guest that that time we played with Bob Dylan and that time we played with James Brown.
Amazing.
Yeah,
it's just it's amazing.
Last night Eddie Vedder did Pearl Jam's "Better Man."
Oh yeah,
as part of the farewell.
Backed entirely by just the band.
Yeah,
I mean, I did a blog. Actually, sometimes a blog post entertains yourself as much as anybody else. I did a blog post a year ago about just how good the band is, and in doing so, I'm going to go to YouTube and start looking for musical performances. And I was reminded of time and time again, you can't lock them down into any one thing that the band does because they have to be able to do everything. And one of the most impressive ones of them all was that they had the opera singer Rene Fleming do a top 10 list where she is singing a different aria for each with new lyrics with each one, and it was backed by the band who had to sing not just a rock and roll version of Aida, but just the for real version. They had the different instruments they needed for this sort of thing, and no problem, just learn 10 different classical aria pieces. No problem. That's what we do. We are professionals.
It's making me feel old because one of the things they said in the article is that it was 22 years ago that Letterman moved from NBC to CBS. I went, wait a minute, that 22 years ago?
Seems like yesterday, doesn't it? No, all the people I talk to, I mean, a lot of people tend to say there's the first half of his career at NBC and the second half at CBS. It's actually it's 2/3 at CBS, but we've all kind of compressed it down because all the people who were fans of him back then, we're all getting older too, just like he is, and you lose sight of the fact that he's been doing it at CBS for 20 years.
Well, anyway, listen to the Incomparable. I haven't listened yet, but I want to very much hear that.
It's a fun one.
Yeah.
Good Ihnatko stuff in there. So
I'm old enough. I remember Johnny's last shows.
We talk about that. Johnny Carson is hovering over this entire week because he was such an influence on David Letterman and defined what this job is that now David Letterman has also had for 3 decades.
Although Letterman, in many ways, copied the predecessors.
He brought a lot of Steve Allen, and Andy talks about that specifically in the Incomparable. That he brought a lot of that stuff. He dusted it off and brought it back out.
He brought the snark back to late night TV.
Part of the thing I always like to say though when that comes up is that yes, that's and Letterman and the producers and writers that helped to create the first Letterman show, they also acknowledge that. But nonetheless, at the time, the Steve Allen show, it's not on video. You have to be almost a historian to have access to have been exposed to that. And you look at the fact that, just like I say this on the show, it's not as though the Mac was the very first computer to have a mouse or drop-down menus or a graphical user interface. But when you take a look at the history of computing, all computers were one way, and then the Mac came out, and then every computer after that was like the Mac. And so everyone else wasn't trying to emulate the Xerox Star. It was this computer that really framed it in a way that made everyone say, "Oh, everything's different after now." So
look at that guy bringing it back around.
Thank you for doing that. Hey, just out now, WatchOS 1.0.1.
Yep.
If you go to your Apple Watch app, go to General and then Software Update, and I'm seeing it right here. It says only this release includes performance improvements and bug fixes. Do we know anything about this update?
Yeah, it's roughly analogous to iOS 8.3 in that it also gives you the diversity emoji and it gives you additional language support. But mostly it's performance enhancements for a bevy of internal apps and a bunch of bug fixes.
It says improved performance for Siri, measuring stand activity. Good, because that was a joke.
Yeah.
You'd be standing for an hour, and then at 10 minutes before the hour, it'd say, stand up.
Yeah.
It's always 10 up, isn't it?
Mass.
Yeah. Kneel, stand, kneel.
Yeah.
Calculating calories for indoor cycling and rowing workouts. Some have complained that they're not very reliable.
I did mine yesterday, and it was. I'm gonna try and do it after the update because it was off quite a bit yesterday. Still.
Distance and pace during outdoor walk and run workouts. Accessibility, third-party apps. Display to support, as you mentioned, for the new emoji characters and additional language support for Brazilian, Portuguese, Danish, Dutch, Swedish, Russian, Thai, and Turkish. So there's nobody knows of any reason not to do this, right? Shall I do it right now?
I did mine immediately.
Your watch has to be on your charger.
What?
And it has to be more than even if it's on the charger, it has to be more than 50% charged.
And you got to be on Wi-Fi.
So don't do it now. Actually, I'm not sure you have to be on Wi-Fi. You have to be connected. So your phone has to be close. I'm not sure.
I think it says your iPhone has to be on Wi-Fi.
Oh, all right.
That would make sense because it's not going to use Bluetooth to copy this.
And it's downloading that.
It's a 51 megabyte download.
Yeah. And then it takes a while.
Does it?
Yeah, it takes a while. The install for me took surprisingly long.
All right. Well, it hasn't yet told me get your watch on it. Get thee to a charger. My watch is fully charged, so.
Yeah, I wonder if the charger thing, because normally it uses Bluetooth and it only escalates to Wi-Fi if it has to. But I'm wondering if to get it faster, they're using Wi-Fi as full on, and that's why they want you on that charger.
Right. That would make perfect sense. When you first set it up, don't you have to put it on the charger or no? No, that was the LG Urbane watch. Never mind. I'm confusing
your smartwatches.
It's
exciting though. I mean, because the 1.0 is not just the OS version that we've had as long as we've had the Apple Watch, but it's also they had to put that on the first models that they were manufacturing.
Right. So it's pretty old.
It's good that they finally have pushed out a 1.01 because I'm sure they've been collecting a lot of things that they wanted to push out there, and they can finally get them out there. The bugs that they knew weeks ago.
So, like the iPhone, you would send emoji on the iPhone, and they wouldn't show up on the Apple Watch, including Jason's beloved "Live Long and Prosper" emoji.
Will I get "Live Long"? Can I do this now?
No, it'll display them, but you can't enter them on iOS yet. But you can display them if you can make like a text shortcut, which is what I did. If
you have them. Jason just put "Live Long and Prosper" in the chat room, and it shows up.
It's blank.
Like nothing. How do you do that?
I have it as a keyboard shortcut. Type LLAP, and it turns it into the "Live Long and Prosper."
I love it. All right, well, it's 5 minutes remaining. It went from 14 minutes to 7 minutes right away, so maybe it's not going to take that long. And it is, we should point out, it feels like the Apple Watch has been out for years. We've been talking about it for years. But it's only been 3 weeks. I mean, this is a pretty prompt first.
No, and I when I say it's finally out there, I just am envisioning people at Apple being like, oh, finally we get to, because there were probably bugs in there that they knew about before it even shipped. They're like, can we fix it? And now they get to fix that stuff.
Right. Yeah. How is availability going these days? Are people able to walk into stores yet?
No. What's funny is my black link bracelet finally shipped this week, and I know Mark Gurman's, I think John Gruber is also just shipped. And my mom, who ordered the pink sport bracelet, which hadn't shipped either, it was said June, and it just shipped miraculously yesterday as well. So it looks like even the ones that were taking the longest are now finally getting shoved out the door.
So they're really 3 levels of Apple fandom. There's the buying the watch level 1, but that doesn't get you there. I guess if you bought the $17,000 watch,
that's the outer circle.
That's the outer circle. Yes. The inner circle the middle circle is people who bought the watch and several bands, and then the true fan like John Gruber has several Apple Watches, just a few.
Well, we're in the business, right? I've got 2 right now.
There's no justification.
No, I've got 2 right now because there was one that I could get the day of.
Right. Which isn't the one you wanted.
No, and now I've got the one that I ordered, so now I will sell the other one.
So you're wearing a black sport.
This is the one I paid for, yeah. And the other one I paid for too, but it was from a friend, and now I'll turn around and sell that one.
Oh, so this is the new one.
This is the one I got. I got this last week, and that was going to be my answer. Is I got this last week, and the band that I ordered should be arriving today. So it seems like the products are flowing out a lot better now.
And for me and John, and I think some others, we had the review unit the day before availability, and then we were waiting for the ones that we actually paid for to arrive.
Yeah.
Okay, so you will not have multiple watches.
No. This one will go back, and I'll have the one.
One goes back to Apple, and then you've got the keeper.
I wonder what the aftermarket is going to be, because there are a lot of people in that position where they ordered the first day because they're developers, they had to get it, and then when the things loosened up, or some of these orders got overlapped, and now they find themselves that they've got 2 watches, and one of them is now returnable, and you may as well send one back right now. I kind of wonder what happens when you finally do manage to when Apple gets a bunch of watches that have been worn and have been like sweated into and all that sort of stuff, but now how do they sanitize them so they can resell them?
They've got those machines by the way, with fire.
I do have one now.
Hey, Andy, no more of that crappy Moto 360.
And Rene and I have confirmed that the "Live Long and Prosper" emoji does display on the Apple Watch.
There it is. I see the tweet or the message.
Yeah, he just I messaged me.
Wait a minute.
He just Rene no longer has to draw it.
He did a screen capture. Yeah, that's very sophisticated. How do you do that again?
You push the 2 buttons simultaneously on the right side there.
Oh, it did a flash.
Yeah. And then it syncs to your iPhone.
They call that the David Pogue button on the iPhone because when the first iPhone came out, the prototype that Pogue had been reviewing for the New York Times had that feature, and then it shipped without it.
Yeah.
And Pogue said, "What the hell? I need it." And so they put it in.
Eventually, we took a lot of screenshots where you had to like jailbreak the phone, install an FTP server, telnet into the. It was the worst.
Well, Android screenshots was incredibly painful for the first few years.
Oh, really?
And I think you'd run the SDK to get them.
And then you could do it on the screen.
Yeah, and it turns out that giving people the occasion to take screenshots means they take a lot of screenshots and advertise your product for you.
Well, what also means, remember the first year of the iPhone where it was the only way to like save things to a place where you could find them again. And it was the only way to do a lot of multitasking. That I was using it as my scrapbook just so that here is something I'm looking at on my phone that's important. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm reminding myself, I'm reliving bad experiences where, okay, I'm here. Here is the address and the map of the place I want to go to. And now I'm going to screenshot this because I know that if I close the phone and open it up again, it will show me this for 1/2 a second, and then Safari will clear the screen, try to reload the page, and then fail. And now I won't know the address of the place I need to go to. So, yes, the screenshot feature was incredibly important on the first iPhone.
There are a goodly number of Apple Watches on eBay. I don't know if it's safe to buy there. And some of them are close to the actual price. Here's a 38mm Black Sport for $375. That's not much more.
I think for some people, I don't think it's all speculators. I think some people bought a few different models, wondering which one they'd get first or which one they'd like more, and figuring that it was so constrained that they could sell them, even if it's not for much of a market.
Yeah, a lot of these are sport models. In fact, so far, all the ones I'm seeing are sport models, but I guess they're sorting by price.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and then you can get a lot higher. I mean, there are people selling the one you just got for $600. That's more than you paid for the Black Sport, right?
Certainly.
Space Gray pre-order $500. There's hundreds of these.
I do think that this market is gonna. I mean, I think you'll still be able to sell them for basically cost, but at some point they'll be freely available.
Yeah.
Right now, people are trying to make an extra $100 or whatever because you can get it now from me, or you can get it in 6 weeks or 8 weeks from Apple.
And again, it's only been 3 weeks. iLover is writing, I ordered it in the first 10 minutes and I'm just getting mine today. Well, 3 weeks is not the end of the world.
It depends on the band too. Like the modern buckle, you can't get separately still, and the Link bracelets took for a long time to ship compared to the other ones.
I feel bad for people who broke their watch, because for you, you're not going to get a replacement for a while, right?
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they have some in stock. Some replacements in stock at the Apple stores. So if you come in with one that's faulty or broken, they might be able to do a swap. I haven't heard those stories.
You have two incidents. If you get Apple Care Plus, they will replace it for a fee twice just due to accidental breakage or other kinds of damage.
The question is whether you'll get it right away. Is when will you get it, right?
Yeah, and it might depend on the size and popularity.
Yeah, which one you're getting. Yeah. What is our general sense of which ones are available now? Is there like
the 38s are much more readily available?
It's easy to get
the
small ones. Yeah.
I was surprised when I was looking at the ordering page a couple weeks ago. I was surprised that all colors have the same level of unavailability. I was thinking, okay, is anybody not buying, let's say, the large one with the pink band? And nope, it's still as hard to get as anything else.
So we have a couple visiting today. I can see you have an Apple Watch 42, right?
Stainless steel.
Nothing on your wrist, though, young lady. No Apple Watch?
We're working on her, sir.
Working on her. How is he going to send you his heartbeat if he doesn't have an Apple Watch?
Strong argument.
She's pulling up her iPad there. All right, that's fair. That's fair. You've spent enough money with Apple. One sport watch. I always check now with the audiences in the studio because I don't yet see a majority of Apple Watches. And even at MacBreak Weekly, there's only 2 people, right, with Apple Watches. Nobody else, just the 2 out of 5. So that's 40%.
That's 40%.
100% of the hosts, though, now, thanks to Andy, finally giving up on Android.
Thank you very much.
For MacBreak purposes.
See, the frightening thing for you, Leo, is that, like, often how quickly you flip sometimes. Like, finally giving up on Android. A couple weeks ago, didn't you say something about how, like, Android is materially superior in every way?
It's objectively superior, and I stand by that. Well, however, I have to say, I'm getting used to the iPhone. Well, I have to, because the truth is, I have to say the Apple Watch, as much as I like the Urbane, which is the best Android Wear watch out there, it's so butt ugly. My wife won't let me wear it.
It's the best watch this week. We can wait a bit.
So I think it's still close, but I do like, And you know what I'm actually starting to like is the fitness stuff. It's actually
it's great.
I notice I'm working out more because I kind of want those silver button.
You feel
awards.
bad, right? Like if you don't,
Yeah.
it's sort
I
of
want the circles.
Yeah.
The one thing that before we switched, I saw a great comment from Neil Seibert, who's the former sell-side analyst, who was talking about Apple, and he said that even if 90% of iPhone users actively hate the Apple Watch, that's still 50 million people who can buy them.
That's right.
So like the size of the market is a good indicator.
It's a good market.
But Apple tends to aim higher than we know you hate it, but enough of you will not hate it that it's interesting. I had so mine arrived on Thursday, and I set it up on Friday. Was wearing it like all day Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Yesterday I had one of those often travel days where into Amtrak to New York. I had a product launch and then an interview with an executive and a whole bunch of other stuff, plus seeing two friends, and then getting back on the train at 7:50. And so I'm setting up what I want to take on Sunday night, and I'm thinking, I've had 3 days worth of experience with the Apple Watch. Am I excited enough about it that I'm going to use it as my wearable on this trip tomorrow? And then that's when I took it off and I put my Android Wear watch back on, because it's interesting. I mean, I've had a lot of I'm not going to review it until I've had it for about a month, but it's I think it was one thing that was significant is that I was taking notes on my observations as I go, and after trying to do it 2 or 3 or 4 times with the Apple Watch, I found myself saying, okay, I'm going to now just simply put my Android Wear watch on the other wrist, because that lets me take a note in Evernote with one tap and then never do anything else. And it's too hard to do on the Apple Watch for me to do it in such a casual way. So it's interesting. The other piece of news is that, like, I thought that I could really test it by I'll just tether my my iPhone to my Android phone and do it that way. Then I realized that no, that's not a fair test. So my Nano SIM is now inside my iPhone 6. I'm officially switching back to iOS for an entire month, because I don't want this to have like second-class citizen status. That's
what I'm doing too. That's what you got to do.
And it'll also be a sort of a reality check on my switching to Android to see if I've never stopped using iOS. I've never even stopped using the iPhone, but it's certainly stopped being like my primary phone. And now, okay, we'll go back to this and rely on it for everything, and we'll see how different that is.
There was one thing that was super interesting for us is we had a big network-wide meeting last week, and I was there, and Trinity was there, and a few other people. And because we have Android sites and other sites, there was a ton of smartwatches there. We both had the Apple Watch. There was the Urbane. There was the Moto. There was, I think, a Samsung watch, but there was just a wide variety. And Trinity Caldwell went and put them all on her arm. And the 38, not even the 42, but the 38 millimeter Apple Watch was the only one that looked even approached her scale. Yeah. So like some of us have the luxury of picking and choosing, but I think still not everyone is well served.
Look how big that Urbane. I think the Urbane is 52 millimeters or 58. It's very, very big.
WWDC. Well, also that is absolutely true. Needs to be acknowledged. It also needs to be acknowledged that not a whole lot of people will say $350 to $400 to $600 to $700 for a watch that I don't know if I need or if I can actually use. There's something to be said for $200 and $250 as well.
Anybody have an Apple Watch charger in the house? Because you're right, it's now paused. It says installation paused. To install the update, Apple Watch must be connected to its charger and charged at least 50%.
Well, they don't want you to brick your watch, Leo.
Yeah.
I guess.
Leo, you hated that so much that you said charger, and I thought you said Jar Jar.
Jar Jar. Jar Jar. The Apple Watch Jar Jar.
Updates, huh?
Misa needs a charger watcher. No, there's nothing in there. You're going to actually, bring me. Maybe I could do it with one of my Qi chargers.
No,
it's one way, right?
So there's two components in the Apple Watch charger. It needs the Qi and it needs the magnet. And if you don't have both things, it won't charge.
Oh, I should try it.
So close.
Yeah, so close.
We tried hacking it with a variety of different.
Don't go to your car, sir. It's okay. That's not necessary.
We got
but if you decide you want to update your watch and you go to get the charger to do that, at that point I will borrow. But please don't. No, I would be rude. And mean. I'll just have to wait until I get home, like every other person in the world.
Your patience will be rewarded.
Yeah.
Like it's
battery, by the way, on the watch we were all worried. No, no problem, zero, none at all, right?
Looks to me like Apple did some serious work in the last 6 months after they announced it to beat some sort of internal metric for battery life.
Yeah.
Because I've heard from some women who do a lot of fitness stuff that the 38 has some issues because its battery is smaller.
Lisa used her 38 up yesterday by 6 p.m. because she works out 5 hours a day.
And the fitness stuff takes more battery. You can turn off the heart rate metering, but if you leave that on at full, it will use the battery. But for me, I haven't had a problem. I feel like they actually kind of overshot. But I have heard that with the smaller watch and with a lot of fitness stuff, you can run into trouble.
I think we did yesterday, actually. But I'm always 50% when I go to bed.
Yeah, it's
fine.
They did a good job for me anyway.
That's because I'm pretty sedentary, and I have no heartbeat.
I burnt it down twice by just covering it, like literally using it constantly for 2 days to do coverage. But since I've been using it like a quasi-normal person, it's always between 30 and 40 every night.
Yeah.
I'm pretty impressed. I mean, I'm getting about the same battery life out of it that I'm getting out of the Moto 360, which is about at least count on it a full day, and usually a day, and then into the next morning as well. Which is more impressive because when you consider that it really does seem as though the Apple Watch is doing a lot more, and there's a lot more depth to what it's doing. I don't know whether that it also needs to be stated that the Moto 360 has a really bad processor for the sort of device it is. Yeah. But they really did get that absolutely.
And it had
correct.
terrible battery life when it first came out, but a couple of updates later, it was great.
That's another thing I wanted to mention. Like, anytime you read or hear anybody say anything negative about Apple Watch, realize that this thing's been out for about 3 weeks. And when the Moto 3, again, I'm a big fan of the 360, as you heard me say all the time. When it was released, Android Wear had been out for several months already, and even then, it wasn't until 1 or 2 updates that they really got it going the way that I think it needed to be done. And even given all of that, when I first started wearing it in September, I really didn't like it the first day. I started to like it after a weekend, and it took me a couple of weeks when I'd gotten it dialed up. When I got its settings dialed in the way I wanted it to, when I've got the applications that I really wanted to use installed on it, and more importantly, when I had started to figure out features that I can use and features that I can disable and not let distract me, that's when I really became a fan of it. So that's why anytime you hear somebody try to pronounce something about Apple Watch after only a few days with it, definitely take it within the context of this is a brand new thing, and maybe if this person gave it another few weeks, their opinion might be different.
Which okay, I'm going to do a little poll here. Which watch face are you using, Andy?
I don't like any of them. I'm just using. This is just a. I'm
hate them all.
It's turned off.
No, I don't hate them all. It's just like these are
Press
all
the
like
crown.
equally,
There you go. That's the one I'm using too.
They're all to me. I don't mean this necessarily as a complaint. They're all like just equally okay. It is a watch face.
Yeah.
Got it. So for me, it's just choose between analog or digital.
I like utility, and my complication. This is going to be the new thing everybody talks about. I like utility, and my complications are fitness, weather, and calendar. How about you, Jason Snell?
Very nice. I am also using utility. But you're looking at a guy who's written, I'm writing a series of 1,000-word reviews of each individual watch face.
Oh, Lord.
So I like utility.
Mickey Mouse is just so.
I think that the watch is lacking.
The demo watch face.
I think it's lacking in digital faces. There's really only modular, and I think modular is not good enough on its own. It's got some advantages, but I don't like it for other reasons. I don't like that the time's in the upper right corner. But utility is working for me. I only have one.
Do you use
complication.
day date on the utility?
Yeah, I've got the day date, and I think I've got the fitness rings, and that's it right now. And
I like the sweep secondhand as well. I have it red. What color is yours?
Yellow.
Oh,
it was red for a while. You should try yellow. It's interesting. But it's too many analog hands, not enough digital faces. You can make multiple presets basically of the same face with different complications.
Yeah.
So that's kind of nice. But yeah, I agree with Andy. They're okay. And it feels like there needs to be more work here, either from Apple or from third parties if they open it up. But it's just they're all fine, or at least some of them are fine, some of them are weird. And the complications are nice, but there's more that can be done there, and including more digital faces, more ones that actually just show you the time as numbers.
I'm really looking forward to third-party complications. That's going to be that to me is going to open it up. I do. Originally I would have thought that all the space in the corners is wasted space. But once you have the ability to say, look, there is a certain thing a certain application does that is so important to me that even if all there is there's a circle in the corner that is one of 4 colors telling me the situation about whether cameras or whatever are turned on, and just the ability to do that, like just be alerted to something when I'm just checking the time, would be such a huge thing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Renee, which face are you using?
So right now, you actually caught me at a weird stage because I'm trying all the different. I
like that one. I like that one. Is that the jellyfish?
No, that's solar.
Yeah, well, I like that one too. But I would never use it. It's pretty, but it's like I want to watch.
I'm done. All the fancy ones like that, like including that, I demoed them and they're fine. And then after 8 minutes, it's like, okay, I think I've seen everything I would ever like to see about.
So I have some rationale though. Okay. I'm not just doing this in a vacuum. So I usually have modular on because it lets me have, the activity, the battery, the calendar appointments, and I had battery for a while before I really trusted it. Now I've removed that.
Me too.
And I really like the complications. I like them so much. I did this experiment this weekend where I took my Apple Watch off during the day for the first time since I got it, and I left it off for a couple hours, and I thought it'd be the notifications that I'd miss, and I'd have to go running back to my iPhone like it's 2014 or something. But then immediately I was glancing at my wrist, and all I saw was wrist, and I realized I'd become so dependent on just quickly seeing what the temperature was, what the next calendar appointment was, what my activity level was. I was used to being able to just get to the stopwatch, get to the timer, that not only did I really like that they were on my watch, but I really wanted them on my iPhone lock screen as well, because then it would just turn on and I'd see them and there'd be such a possibility there. So I basically have either a utility or modular on when I'm working, and then when I'm not working, I purposely put it on a very minimal watch face just so that I don't drive myself crazy staying up to date all the time.
Yep, that's absolutely correct. This is going to be such a different device when if and when developers get to really go nuts developing not just little apps for it, but their own watch faces. When one of the most useful watch faces I ever had on the 360 was during that month where it was just snowing every 3 days. We had that horrible, horrible month in February. I switched to my full-time watch face was a watch face that has the time and a really detailed, granulated daily weather map. That was done by Weather. I think it was done by Weather Underground. I could be wrong, but so it wasn't that I would be checking the time all the time, but that checking the weather all the time. But every now and then I glance at the watch to see like what time it is and say, oh, damn it, it's going to be snowing at 2 p.m. I better get to FedEx right now instead of later in the afternoon. And so when Renee is absolutely right, like once you have the ability to say, this is what's important to me and my life right now, not only here's the face I want to look into each of the 40 or 50 times a day that I check the time, but also here's the information that I don't even want to have to do anything to get this information. This is how important it is. And boy, it's going to be almost an entirely new device when that happens.
And to Jason's point, I mean, you can set up a couple. So I have 2 versions of modular, one that has all the fitness stuff, so I can just do timers, stopwatches, activity, and there's one that just has a lot of data stuff. And even if you're a businessman, you could have stocks and you could have the time zones for your other offices. So there's a lot of variety, and it's all running off something called Nano Time Kit. And Mark Gurman from 9 to 5 Mac was reporting that they're already considering the third-party complications because that framework, like most of Apple's frameworks, can be extended. So it's going to be really interesting to see. He mentioned, for example, you'd see a count of how many tweets you have. And I really like that from a security standpoint. I'm not a huge fan of lock screen notifications or widgets because they leak a lot of information. No one needs a passcode to see my messages, even to see who sent me messages or to pull down my widgets. But this, if it just sees the amount of tweets and you have to be either logged in or maintain skin contact to get the actual information, that's a huge privacy win as well for me.
I tried yellow. I just can't live with it. I've gone back to red.
All right. You be your own special flower. That's fine.
Okay. Everybody
don't hide your light under a bushel.
I know. But you saw how I was doing it on the video, but you saw how you save it. And I wondered at first when I saw that plus sign at the end of the faces, I thought, oh, I can add other faces. No. All you can do is save existing configurations.
And if you delete one by accident, you can get it back.
Oh, you can?
We had several people deleted some watch faces by accident.
Ah, interesting.
I deleted them on purpose because I didn't like them. That's
what happens
with
the mouse?
They just come back.
They just come back?
If you swipe up, you get a delete.
You tap the plus and you can pick what face you want. So it comes pre-populated with all the faces, but you can take them and add them back. And
so if I want to delete the flower face, how do I delete it?
You slide it up, I think.
Yeah, hold it down for a second, and then when it goes into edit mode, slide it up.
All right, slide it up. Oh, little red trash can. Does it do poof? No.
No, it just goes away. No, Scott Forstall's gone.
This is nice.
Yeah, exactly.
You can use it to reorder if there's
watch
faces.
Oh, you could reorder them that way.
If you use watch faces a lot, you can delete them and then add them back in the order you want to have them, so you can go quickly between two.
I'll keep Mickey, and I'll keep utility. Maybe I'll keep modular in deference to Rene Ritchie.
You know, one of the funny things about the
I will not keep this one. This is dopey. That's the giant
if you
numbers.
have vision problems.
It's for people with vision problems, obviously.
So one of the weird interim places that Apple is right now is they've gotten rid of the puff of smoke from various things, including dragging things out of the dock. But on the Mac, the sound effect is still there. Poof. So it doesn't poof anymore, but it makes the poof sound. What? Why? Huh?
So now I have two modulars because I saved one, and I can go.
Yeah.
And that's kind of handy.
They can be totally different.
Mickey, modular.
Mickey modular?
Modular, then Mickey, then modular.
Right. Yeah. But I could reorder them if I wish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal. I think personalization on this watch is going to be more important than on any other product Apple has ever done, because you can't get more intimate. A device that you hold and you surround with your hands is pretty intimate, but a device that you wear on your body that you always have constant skin contact with, nothing is more personal. And I think there's nothing, and it also tacks into
my
traditional
girlfriend.
jewelry.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like nothing's going to be. People are going to want and really appreciate the ability to make this really emphatically my watch, that not only aesthetically but also it's really suited for this one thing that I'm doing right now today. I mean, I would love to just, with a couple of taps, switch it from trying to get onto my flight mode for my house to I am now home. I don't have to leave for another 2 weeks mode.
You're right to, by the way, Andy, at least try it for a month, because I find that a lot of these customizations don't start occurring to you till you've used it for a while, and then you maybe change how you use glances and things like that.
Exactly, and there's one thing that I really wish that Apple changes is the ability to all the different ways you can respond to a notification. There should be one extra button that says never accept notifications from this app ever again, because right now you can, if there's Flickr was one of the first apps that, like, every time someone follows my stream on Flickr, I would get a notification on the watch.
No, thank you.
And it's like, that's very easy to say, yeah, no, never put that on my watch ever again. And it kind of surprised me that I had to actually go to the phone and dig into settings in order to make that happen, when really the point of annoyance is the best time and place to deal with that.
Did you notice with the 1.01, Rene, any like speed? Was it speedier? Did you notice how is Siri better? Have you noticed anything yet?
Yeah, it's the very what's the right word? Amorphous performance enhancement. So everything is supposed to be a little bit cleaner. It's going to take me a couple of days though, because when you joggle the bits, it's hard to tell exactly what's changed until you've been using it, like the way you used the original version.
Right. All right, let's take a break. Enough. One more thing I'll just mention. Go ahead.
I wanted to say, I said there were no digital faces. There are 5 digital faces. I have a hard time putting the ones that have pictures or animations or things in the same category as modular and the extra large, because those are about the time, and the others I feel like the time is sort of secondary. I would like to see more things with complication options and the digital time, and we don't have a lot of those. We really only have the one.
I don't really like digital time. Isn't that strange that with a watch I actually want a pie face?
A lot of people talk about that it's silly to have analog hands on a digital watch. Although one of the first watches I ever had was an LCD that did analog hands. And I thought it was cool. And I kind of like being able to look at my wrist and say, oh, it's about 1:45, instead of saying it is 12:43 exactly, because who cares?
That's what the younger generation, you kids, don't appreciate, because we had to learn. We had in kindergarten and first grade, they had like wooden clocks with movable hands, so you could learn the big hand, little hand, all of that stuff. It was a lot of work to learn it, but what it does give you is some sort of relative sense of passing time, as opposed to with the digital, it's always exactly this minute. Yeah. When you're looking at a pie face, you kind of know, it's we're moving up onto this hour, or I don't know. I do think that there's something to be said for that. The other thing I was going to mention, yesterday on iOS Today, we talked about calibrating the watch. So last night, Lisa and I took a walk and recorded it in the workout app, so we could get the GPS and the steps. Was it you, Rene, who told me to do this? Somebody told me to do this.
Yeah.
Now we'll see if it's more accurate. Although I guess there are some accuracy issues because that's one of the things this update addresses.
But that is a smart idea to use if you know the steps you take and you know the distance you traveled, you can make some really smart guesses about what your stride length is. So then if you don't have the GPS, some other time, like you leave the phone at home and bring the watch,
it'll do a better job.
It has an idea of how long you traveled.
Yeah, we took like a 2-mile walk, and it knows. Except for I rode the Segway for a little bit, which I think is going to very much confuse it as to stride. My God, you must be wearing 7-league boots. But most of it, you could see how many steps. It knows how many steps you take,
right?
And then it knows how far you went, and it can. And I think to a great degree, much more so than a Jawbone or any other device, can tell exactly what your stride is.
They recommend 2 to 3 times to take your iPhone with you 2 to 3 times. Yeah, when you start working out.
I got to say one thing though. I do like the fitness stuff. I also as a side thing, I also like the fact that when I set up the Microsoft Band, it set a step goal that was ambitious and a calorie goal that was ambitious. When I set up the watch and I said, how old are you? There you go. How much do you weigh? Okay, how about if we try to do 400 steps?
Me too. Me too.
And like, yay!
Thank you, watch.
Steps.
I love you, watch.
Yeah, it's like
you understand me.
You understand that it's going to take some time to change my lifestyle. But the thing that I really need to disable is the stand up thing, because it's like I'm writing. I get a tap say it's time to stand up. No, it isn't. It's time for me to finish this sentence. Watch, stop annoying me with this sort of stuff.
Hey, I just discovered something kind of cool. See, it's like it does take a while. All devices take a while to learn. That's why I like to review phones for many weeks. But boy, there's a lot of stuff hidden here. So I have the stopwatch. I just added the stopwatch complication. When you force touch the stopwatch, you can change from analog to digital to graph to hybrid. You can actually change what the stopwatch looks like.
It's why my
Did
Apple
you know
Watch
that,
review is
Jason Snell? You
20,000.
didn't know. I gotcha.
It's a good tip. Good tip.
I
tipped you yesterday. You tipped me today.
I think the good tip is force touch everything.
Yes.
All the things.
I wish that,
Leo, this is why my Apple Watch review is 20,000 words.
Yeah, there's really? Wow, there's a lot to say. All right. Hey, Jeff Needles, do you have a watch charger here? He's my Apple guru.
Oh, you mean force touch in the stopwatch app?
Once you're into the stopwatch.
I did know that.
Oh, crap.
Sorry.
Oh, no, not in the app. I didn't have to do it from the app. I did it from the watch face. So when because I have a stopwatch on my watch face, then you force touch that.
Well, yeah, but you're in the app at that point.
Oh, crap.
By touching the complication, you move to the app.
Oh, shut up.
That's a good
It's
tip.
like a fast app launcher.
I tipped you again, Leo.
Oh, shut up. Can you say, hey, Shlomo, launch stopwatch?
Yep.
Okay.
Or open stopwatch.
Can you say start stopwatch? Would it start it? No.
I don't think so.
Shlomo's not that smart. And you know why we use Shlomo.
I prefer Ahoy timepiece.
Ahoy timepiece.
Ahoy.
Ahoy timepiece. Let's take a little tiny break. Yeah, you could tell the difference between a force touch and a long press because it vibrates.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a little hint, like stop touching me.
The last quick comment that I'm still trying to suss out what a force touch means.
I know.
What should I expect to happen when I force touch something?
You can't.
And I don't think I've figured that out yet. But again, I'm only 4 days old with this, so I don't expect to have figured things
Leo,
out.
it does start a stopwatch if you ask it. I just tried it.
Okay, but I can't try it on the air because then everybody's watches will start timing.
It's for science.
It's for science? Okay, let me do it. Okay. Hey, Siri. Hey, Siri.
That's the second problem.
That's another problem. Maybe they fixed that. So you double tap, right? No.
I'll hold it down.
Double tap was the Jason
I really wish Siri were easy to open. Easier, not just that.
Start stopwatch. Forget it. It says, I'm not sure what you said, Leo.
Yeah.
Start
It's
stopwatch.
noisy there in that studio with nobody talking.
Yeah.
Okay, start stopwatch. No, it didn't. It just launched.
Just opens the stopwatch.
Just
stopwatch.
Yeah. Look at that. I
Mine
love
started-
that
mine
one.
was
Look at
stopped.
these
That's
with
right.
these 3 dials, and I feel like a pilot. Look at that. Oh, things are going fast. It looks like my utility meter when all the chips are on. Zzz. Our show today brought to you by SmartThings. Actually, this would be a really good use for SmartThings. If your power bill is going through the roof, SmartThings will help you keep it under control. SmartThings is the ultimate way to automate your home. I know we've all kind of dabbled in home automation. It used to be very expensive to get started, and of course, most companies were using proprietary systems. So you had different user experiences, different apps. SmartThings changes all that. The SmartThings Hub controls so many things. In fact, if you go to smartthings.com/twit, you can look at the products and you'll see all the different things you can control with a SmartThings Hub. Lights, locks, security, and all through a single app. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have 15 apps for 15 different devices. You've got one iOS, Android, or Windows Phone app. And because it's an open platform, SmartThings works just as well with its own sensors as it does with Dropcam and Schlage locks and Honeywell thermostats and, you know, your Philips Hue lights. Rene and I are Hue lights fans. SmartThings won the 2015 Editor's Choice Award at CES this year. You could turn your lights on and off from your phone. Well, power. Let's save power. They have a SmartThings plug. So you can say, hey, look, let's power down for a bit and save some money. Security, you bet. Instant alerts if there's unexpected entry or movement. Set a camera to take a series of photos when unwanted motion or entry is detected. Water detection, too. And there's no required monthly fee. The kit, you know, if maybe one of the devices does, but not for SmartThings. Kits start at just $189. SmartThings is an what is that? I've not seen that one. The Smarter Home Security Kit. Oh, that's...
You know, it doesn't say.
Is that a like
it
a
looks
light?
like it's probably an alarm of some sort.
Yeah, that's the alarm with the light blinking. Oh,
that's
that
probably
looks
the
cool.
alarm.
I got to put that in the refrigerator. Maybe it kind of sneaks into the refrigerator at night. With smartthings.com/twit, we've got a chance to save 10% off any home security or solution kit, and you get free shipping in the U.S. smartthings.com/twit. Don't forget the offer code TWIT. Save at SmartThings. We're talking Macintosh, and actually there is Macintosh news. It's so rare. I should really lead with that. Apple didn't make a big deal, a big splash. Did they? Did they even put out a press release?
They did put a press release out.
All right. New iMac. The 5K iMac has been updated, and there are now...
Yeah, it's not really updated. They sort of did a de-spec'd version for $300.
Downdated.
So now it starts at $1999.
You're right. It's not an update, is it?
$22.99.
Yeah.
It's 2K for 5K, Jason.
Yeah. So it's good. I mean, starting at $19.99 is good. It'll get people more interested in the product, and then they'll probably. I would recommend that most people who are thinking about getting the 5K iMac not get the low end, because it's the non-Fusion Drive spinning disk model that's $19.99.
Right.
And I have a hard time recommending to anybody that I mean, if you really need to spend $200 or $300 less, then I guess you need to do it. But even just having the Fusion Drive to speed things up, the storage speed of a spinning disk is just a major speed constraint.
So for $300, you still get an i5 for $300 less.
It's a little slower.
Little bit. 3.3 gigahertz versus 3.5, with turbo boost to 3.7 versus 3.9. You still get 8 gigs of RAM. The biggest difference is hard drive versus Fusion Drive. Not more capacity. It's only a terabyte Fusion Drive. It's not one of those monster ones.
And you get the price of the other one too.
And you get the R9 M290 Radeon versus the R9 M290X. Is that a big difference?
We
What's
don't.
The X?
I did a search, and the 290X comes up and the 290 doesn't. So I'm really wondering what happens when you lose the X.
Lose the X, Jason.
That seems $300 seems like a fairly hefty difference for the difference really between a hard drive and a Fusion Drive. Now
it was more. It was $500 until they dropped the price of the higher end one.
Okay, so
the same day.
It does seem like a hefty difference. So the $22.99 is down from $24.99
yes.
or $25.99. Oh, $24. That's what we bought. The Fusion Drive, is your experience, guys? The Fusion Drive makes a big difference. It's better than an old slow spinning drive, right?
I went all SSD. So
It would be a great solution if SSD prices had not fallen quite so low. It makes more sense for me, at least, to have at least a 256 or a 512 gig SSD as a boot drive, and then just have a reasonably spiffy external drive for like iTunes storage and all that other sort of stuff.
So you can upgrade all of that. Obviously, you can go up to 32 gigs of RAM. And by the way, you should choose the RAM now, right? Because there's no slots.
You can
there are slots.
You can self-install. That's the only thing you can self-install in the new iMac is RAM.
All right.
I would go SSD, but if you really just need more storage, it is more expensive to do that. Fusion Drive is not a bad compromise if you're really price sensitive, but I would spend $200 to go to Fusion Drive rather than just have the old spinning disk.
Yeah.
It will at least ease some of the pain.
Yeah, so you can go to a terabyte Fusion Drive for if you get the base model, terabyte Fusion drive for $200, or 256 gigs SSD for $200. Are these PCIe? These are probably they are, right?
I think so.
It's just basically like a laptop inside a monitor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. So your advice doesn't seem like it's worth the extra $300, but then I bought the top of the line, of course, when I bought it.
It's more future-proof.
I bought it for Lisa because I still have that Mac Pro, which now I deeply regret. I could have had a 5K, but I do have 3 monitors, so that's nice. I can't do that with the iMac.
It's crazy, Leo, that it really is $2K for a 5K and you get the Mac for free. I mean, compared to 5K pricing,
right,
across the board.
Yeah, because I got an expensive 4K monitor, that Asus monitor. So yeah. So that's one change, and then what else? They
15-inch MacBook Pro is the big one.
They've updated the MacBook Pro 15 to include Force Touch. What else is new?
Faster solid-state storage and a better discrete graphics option at the top of the chain.
You got the Radeon R9 M370X.
Yeah. The big disappointment for me...
And more battery, and better battery life, they said, too.
Yeah.
9 hours now.
But the biggest disappointment with both of these is that Intel still has not managed to ship Broadwell in any meaningful way. So both of these are still Haswell computers. Because Broadwell simply, they just did not get their quad-core chips out the door. And the MacBook was delayed by Intel. And now these computers, I guess Apple decided it wasn't worth delaying them anymore. So they put them out with Haswell.
Yeah.
And Broadwell is not a huge difference, but it is a die shrink. Skylake's going to be the architecture change. But still, there's benefits to having Broadwell. And I understand 14 nanometers is really, really, really hard, but it just feels like Broadwell is taking forever.
It is such a small process, 14 nanometers.
Yeah.
So if you want a 15, obviously they still offer the old ones, don't they? No, they don't. This is it. So if you want a 15, this is what you'll be getting.
Yeah, the 13 inches are Broadwell, if that's really important to you.
I did get the 13, so I have a Broadwell in the new 13.
Which is a new Iris graphics as well. So I mean, it depends on how much all that stuff is important to you.
And the another notable thing here is 4K monitor support, and this is something I wrote about this today, and I got a whole bunch of people. It is a confusing subject. So, the MacBook Pros from 2013, late 2013 on, can support 4K displays at 60 frames per second, 60 hertz. Which is
what you want. You don't want 30.
Right,
you
don't
really
want 30.
not like 30.
And the new MacBook will do that, but only at 30 hertz. This display will do not just the 4K, which previous MacBook Pros could do, but it will do, essentially it's like a 4.5K. It's not a full 5K display, but it can drive a larger monitor. It can drive one of these larger kind of ultra wide.
Do you have to get the top of the line 15?
You need the discrete graphics to do
the Radeon. Oh, that's pretty nice. So if you're a pro user, you want the 15 for mobility, but at home you can drive a fairly decent monitor.
You can drive an even bigger monitor than the previous generation could, basically.
I mean, it's just good for future stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, it sucks when you have to. There's something you need a year and a half after you buy something and you realize that I'm going to have to buy a brand new computer because it's this one thing I need, but it can't be supported by this one thing I have.
Yeah.
Right. So if Apple did come out with a 4K Thunderbolt display or something like that, theoretically, I'm not sure whether they will or not, but they would have a pretty decent well of MacBook Pros that could drive it.
Why haven't they come out with a 4K display?
We're still waiting for, Broadwell's
weird.
been delayed. It's all chipset support. Broadwell was delayed. Skylake is what you need for 5K, which is where Apple pegged themselves instead of 4K. And that's going to require Skylake and Thunderbolt 3, which I believe is being shown off at Comex with the show in Taiwan tomorrow. Computex, yeah, that's going to be shown off tomorrow. But and Skylake, because it's not die shrink, it's architecture, it should come out fairly quickly after Broadwell finally gets the process sorted out, unless Intel decides to delay it so they can make more money off of Broadwell, which seems to be an unknown quantity right now.
I'm sure Ryan Shrout and Patrick Norton will be covering that in detail on This Week in Computer Hardware. Ryan usually goes to Computex, so if you're into chips and what's going on with Broadwell and all of that. And what is it, Skylake?
Skylake is after Broadwell, yeah.
This is the show to watch. We've moved it, by the way, to Thursdays at 12:30 Pacific, 3:30 Eastern. So don't forget.
Good timing this week.
Yeah. And I don't know, but usually Ryan goes to Computex. He's a big Computex fan. That's really, if you're a chip head, that is the show to go to. PCs and so forth. Speaking of monitors, I guess the app. Okay, so there was going to be an Apple television set, according to the Wall Street Journal,
which we've known about for 5 years.
But Apple shelved it over a year ago. But Carl Icahn, says you should do it. So I think they should do it. What? Who the hell is Carl Icahn, and why do we care?
Apple is such a simple company. They enter into products, like they investigate anything. If a blogger or an investor has thought of something Apple should explore, chances are Apple has been exploring it for a while now.
Icahn is the activist investor who got Apple to do a buyback and to issue it. I think it was dividends were kind of because of Icahn as well. Mm-hmm. But I don't think that he's going to really convince them to change their product line.
They enter product categories where they believe they can make a significant difference by offering what they call great products at great margins. Yeah. I mean, that's the trifecta for them. If they know what the problem is, they figure they can solve it in an interesting way. They're going to make a great product and make a lot of money doing it. They'll do that, and television has to qualify for those things in order to be a product they launch.
This paragraph, Daisuke Wakabayashi, who's very good at the Wall Street Journal on Apple coverage, writes this paragraph, which echoes what we've said all along. Apple considered an Apple-branded television set, in addition to an ultra-high-definition display, they considered adding sensor-equipped cameras so viewers could make video calls through the set. Ultimately, though, Apple executives didn't consider any of those features compelling enough to enter the highly competitive television market. Apple typically likes to enter a new product area with innovative technology and easier-to-use software. And that's exactly what we've been saying all along. Mm-hmm. Unless they can really lick it.
Yeah. I just could never figure out what Apple could do that would make a standalone TV set a smart thing, given that they can already make a really nicely made little tiny box that is more within their wheelhouse, that is so fewer variables, where they can control almost every aspect of the manufacturing, where they wouldn't have to depend on getting panels from elsewhere. And they could people don't even care really about TV sets. They care about the interface to TV sets. So I just could never understand. I could never figure out what Apple would do by making an entire TV that would be better than simply doing a much better Apple TV.
This all kind of makes sense now because Jobs passed away almost 3 years ago, right? 2012, 2013. And so if this Wall Street Journal report is accurate, Apple was still actively investigating the idea of a television set. So, and it might be that Steve at the time was, because he said, we understand that TV interface sucks and we think we've licked it. And that was the line that got, in Walter Isaacson's biography, that got everybody thinking Apple was working on TV.
Yeah, although, I mean, there are also a lot of rumors that this new Apple TV that we might finally actually see at WWDC this year has been sitting for a couple of years.
Yep. October 5th, 2011. I apologize. Almost 4 years ago now. Wow, has it been a long time.
So the Apple TV stuff has been out there, and they've been waiting. Maybe what they cracked was a bunch of partnership deals, and then Hollywood said, nope.
Nope, not going to do it.
Mm-hmm. That's the problem with it being an Eddie Q's org again, is that it's constrained by content and not constrained by hardware, which the iPhone, iPad, and other devices are.
Yeah. Well, but they dealt with that with the smartphone, right? That was one of the issues about releasing a smartphone, is you have to get the carriers.
But they only need to get one carrier, and this is, it's very difficult for them to launch something and say we have ABC and ESPN, but nothing else, because we could only make a deal with Disney because we know those guys. Right. They need to have a broader set of options if they're going to launch. And I think they've decided, reading the tea leaves, it seems to me they've decided they're going to launch the platform and they're going to figure out the content as they go, because it is silly that this stuff has theoretically been sitting in the lab for a couple of years.
It's worked out really well for Sling so far, and that they had a very, very small collection of channels when they started off their service, but every couple of months they seem to add one or two more, and with every one or two more you add, you're getting one step closer to hitting that one channel that somebody needs. For me, if Sling or Apple got access to Turner Classic Movies, that means that I spend an entire Saturday afternoon in quiet contemplation with a beverage in my hand, wondering why let me walk through the decision about why I'm still subscribing to cable if I can get all the TV shows I want via Hulu, and the one cable channel that I don't think I can live without is also available to me as a subscription.
The biggest trouble with the television is that you make a television set to control input 0 because you want to be the first interface on that device. But if you can't offer compelling content, then people are going to have to go to the cable box on 2 or the Xbox on 3 or the Roku box on 4 anyway. So any advantage you had about being input 0 is just gone. And then without that, it becomes a commodity play and you're competing against Vizio with no clear advantage. So when you look at it, like the Apple TV, I think has been around as long as the Apple Watch, and they made a conscious decision to go ahead with the Apple Watch because that hit all the criteria they wanted for a new product category. And they said year after year, this is interesting, it's in the labs, but we're not going to release it because it doesn't meet those criteria. And now maybe they're going to go ahead with Titan and still not the TV, but it's because again, the criteria for a television just they aren't met. And Apple really that 1,000 no's for every yes is really true. They don't believe like they have to own everything or be in every space.
It's hysterical that Carl Icahn writes an open letter to Tim Cook yesterday in which he says, I believe you will be entering 2 new markets, a TV next year and an electric car
impatient.
in 2020.
Does it feel like they waited longer after the iPhone to beg for something else? And now it's like immediately.
It's like he's informing Tim Cook of what Apple's going to do. I think Tim knows. I hate to tell you, Carl.
Did you see his response, Leo?
What did Tim Cook say?
It wasn't Tim Cook, but apparently something got to Icahn, and Icahn said, well, I'll trust Tim Cook to know what's better for his business.
He says in the letter, well, I'll be the first to admit you are knowledgeable in these areas.
Very manfully conceited.
Thank you. Very strange. If you feel like there's something else going on, I don't know what it is. So the Apple TV, we think, will they announce next month at WWDC the new Apple TV?
Yeah. And
they'll announce a store, an app store?
Well, yeah, maybe in some. This is an interesting discussion I saw some people having today, which is it's easy to jump to conclusions and say, oh, well, there'll be games on the Apple TV and there'll be a console. I would not be surprised if the app support that they're talking about unveiling at WWDC is like for creating rich content experiences for your TV networks to develop apps for the Apple TV. Right. I think it's a lot further on to say we're going to be just letting you make games and stuff. That might happen,
I think games are really likely. Although I think we'll probably have a lot of happy games come up.
I think games are likely, but I also think that Jason is spot on. That one of the advantages that, for instance, the Roku box has is that no deal had to be put into place for the FX network to create a channel for the Roku box. Right. And that was just all they had to do was simply write this little very simple streaming app to make it work.
Or even frankly the iPhone.
Yeah, exactly. And so long as Apple still has like App Store level control over saying, yeah, you've submitted an app that's for your brand new porn channel, we're not going to let you have that on our device, banned, or rejected. So long as they have that ability, and so long as they can still say, look, we can give you, as long as they can still take 30% off of subscription fees, that's a lot of upside for Apple.
And right now there's an SDK. It's just Apple has to hand it off to a content provider that they have an agreement with, and then they make these very thin not web-based, but the UI is all web-based stuff.
It's surprising how simple these. I'm sorry, I'm very familiar on Roku. I'm not at all familiar on what it would be like on Apple TV, but I was shocked at how quick it is. You could even essentially download a container, spend about an hour changing some things around, an hour testing it, and you could submit. As is evidenced by the fact that if you go to if you look for unlisted channels on Roku, so long as you know the URL to something, and so long as you type in an authorization code when you use the website of this other channel, it will let you install channels that have not been certified by Roku. It's not available in the official directory. And you see some of the most bizarre stuff. It's like, hi, I'm Dave, and I have a collection of training videos and industrial food preparation from the 1950s. So here's Dave's food industrial preparation channel on Roku. Because it's that simple to build these things.
Yeah,
it's not that different on the Apple TV, but the new one, the one that Mark Gurman was talking about, which I think is TVKit. If you imagine a modern Apple TV that has a modern A-series processor and things like Metal on it,
right? It's the processor. Then you have.
Well, yeah, so the processor right now is a single-core A5, which is from 2012, which is worse than it's half an iPad 2. But when they bring this to market with a current-generation Apple A-series processor and Metal, Andy and I talked previously about how overpowered the iPad Air 2 is. When you imagine that power in a console box, and I don't know how far Apple will push it because it changes the price, how much, just how far they push the hardware in there. But that can run some pretty impressive games. And when you start coding those games, I think it starts to make the living room much more interesting for Apple.
Yeah. We're going to take a break, come back with the Steve Jobs movie and the panel's thoughts.
Are we going to act it out?
Yeah.
It's not Ashton Kutcher, don't worry.
What would compel a father to give up his only child?
Our show,
Nailed it.
nailed it. Our show today brought to you by lynda.com. Linda, I love Linda. And you will love Linda too if you're curious, or if you're a problem solver, if you want to make things happen, if you've got a hobby that involves technology like photography. Lynda.com is awesome. Awesome. You want to take better pictures? You want to master Excel? You want to learn HTML? You want to write an iOS app or sharpen your Photoshop skills? It's all at lynda.com. Over 3,000 on-demand video courses. They're great because they work with the software publishers, so there's a Swift essential training app. And they got this out very quickly after Apple announced Swift, and of course they keep it up to date. When the new version of Swift came out, they updated it. They just added a course up and running with the Apple Watch. There's a new series called with Jan Kabili, which I really like. Photo Tools Weekly. I guess it's Jan. Code Clinic. Have you done that? Oh, so cool. This is a multi-course series. Lynda.com experts take code challenges. There's the Apple Watch. What's great about this? They shoot it so well, and the people we're teaching not only are great teachers, they're experts in the field. So you're getting such good information. The Code Clinic offers solutions to various code challenges in practically every language: C++, C#, Java, PHP, Python, Ruby. I'm really into coding, so I love that. They just added 4 new languages: JavaScript, C, the old school C, Swift. There you see the Swift Code Clinic, and R, which is a very popular new functional language used for a lot of interesting stuff. Code Clinic and R. And for professional training, if you're already coding in C#, but you want to know more, this is a great place to go. Lynda.com. And what's nice, you get a flat rate membership and you have your run of the place. So you can dip into any course you want with the written transcriptions. It's easy to find the part you want. They chop it up into pieces, so it's very easy to learn at your own pace. When you've got a moment or two, you can even watch, of course, on your Android or iOS device. Browse the transcript as you watch, take notes, and refer to them later. They've mastered this. Your Lynda.com membership gives you unlimited access to training on hundreds of topics, all for one flat rate. So you can learn Swift programming and building a resume, that kind of thing. Whether you're looking to become an expert, you're passionate about a hobby, or just want to learn something new, LYNDA, lynda.com/MacBreak. We've got a special deal, 10 days free. That's enough to take a look at a bunch of courses. A free 10-day trial awaits. The run of the place at lynda.com/MacBreak. All right. It's really not a trailer. It's a teaser, not a trailer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't really tell from this what the hell's going on.
And it is teasing us.
So by the way, we should do a little setup. Aaron Sorkin's writing it. Danny Boyle's directing it. We already know that the premise of this, according to Sorkin, is, 3 of Steve's great product launches. Now, I don't know if, I presume they're going to flash back from those. Sorkin loves the flashback.
I assume that.
But who knows? And in fact, the teaser just shows Jobs on stage. This they shot at the Flint Center, I remember. And there's you hear a little dialogue. You're going to hear Seth Rogen as Wozniak in here. Let me play it for you.
2 most significant events of the 20th century. The Allies win the war, and this.
That's bizarre, by the way. That's a very Sorkin kind of thing to say. The 2 most significant events of the 20th century. The Allies win the war, and this? What do they mean by this?
It doesn't even say what this is.
The iPod release?
iPod Hi-Fi.
What? Yeah, I mean, really, seriously.
No, it's the Beatles
the
coming
Allies
to iTunes.
win the war.
And the Beatles coming to iTunes. That's totally what it is. That's totally what it is.
Oh, my God.
It's got to be. I'll be disappointed.
Never mind.
If that's one of the launches, if the Beatles coming to iTunes is one of the launches, and that's going to be totally worth it just to see like Steve Jobs act like a hand-flapping fanboy. Oh my God, Paul McCartney, oh my God, you're one of the Beatles. Oh my God.
I figure
I know you don't know what a selfie is, but we're developing this thing that can take this thing called a selfie, and I want to take one with you right now.
It's got to have the iPhone because that's the
no iPhone. It stops at the iMac, I believe. I think it's the iPod. I think it's next. Maybe it's two of the early ones, and I think the last one is the iMac. So iPod, iMac,
because he says 20th century.
Maybe it's the iPod. Oh, I don't know.
20th century. It would have to be next or the Apple II. I mean,
no, I think
the Mac.
The Mac, it could be. The iMac.
The original.
The original Mac, 1984.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, God, that's depressing. Who cares? I think the story... Okay, if I were going to pick three, iPad, going backwards, iPad, iPhone, iPod.
It should be iPhone. All the movies stop before the iPhone, and it's appalling.
It's ridiculous. But it should be the Mac, the iPod, and the iPhone.
Maybe the Mac, iPhone, and iPad. How about that?
I would.
I'll raise your iPhone. Go ahead.
Well,
I would say that definitely has to be if it's my choices, and I want to as a viewer and someone who's been reading about the history of Steve Jobs and hearing about it from other people. If there are three product launches that I would want to see. Fact-based historical storytelling that would explain to me and to other people who Steve Jobs was and what he stood for. Next Cube, definitely. No, not an argument. We would have to have probably. I want to say iPhone, but I don't think you could do the iPhone and the iPad. And I think I'd want to see the iPad because that was his last major launch. And then for the first one, I think it would have to be the first Mac.
Yeah,
it might be
the first Mac at Flint Center.
The official list is the Macintosh, the Next, and then the iMac. So it's 84, 88, and 98.
Because we're talking about three very different versions of Steve Jobs. We're talking about the young guy who hasn't been very, very worldly in terms of running a technology business. We've got the guy who said, guess what? You've been chafing at the bit being a vice president. Guess what? You get to be CEO. Whatever you say happens. Now let's see what happens. And I wouldn't have chosen the iMac because iMac is good because now you're seeing the Steve. I'm fascinated by this version of Steve Jobs that seems as though he's been educated by the experience of running Next. But I would like to see iOS because I think that's more of an expression of I'm now captaining a successful company. I've got all the horses running exactly the way I want. Now here's what the next cube would be like if I knew then what I knew now.
Is it possible this is a trilogy? If it were a trilogy, then it would make sense because there's really there's just probably really three distinct Steve Jobs. There's the young, brash, kind of wild man of the early years. There's the Steve Jobs in the desert, the next Steve Jobs.
And then there's the hurt Steve Jobs.
The hurt Steve Jobs.
I define that as the hurt Steve Jobs.
Yeah. And then there's the Steve Jobs that comes back to Apple, who's a very, very different person from those two. So maybe it's a trilogy.
Unfortunately, most of these movies show the first one or the first and second one, and then they sort of say, and then he came back, and you know what happens next. And the answer is
text on the screen saying
Steve
Jobs introduced the iPhone.
I feel like you could push it to the launch of the iPhone and certainly to the iPod and say, this is the thing. And I think the Ashton Kutcher movie starts with the launch of the iPod and then flashes back. And I do feel like they're missing a little bit more, but it may just be that nobody really knows those stories of how that stuff has been created enough to dramatize them. But I think going to the launch of the iMac is stopping a little bit short.
I think really Steve Jobs' legacy starts with his return to Apple. Although you could make the case that releasing the Apple II jump-started the personal computer revolution. So
sure,
I'm more
surprised you like the Next, Andy. You think that's a must, huh?
I think so because if you're looking at a story with an arc in which we're not going to be telling the entire story with one launch, we're going to choose three. I think that Next is important because I do believe that the experience of running Next was incredibly influential because it was his first real chance to say, if all the decisions come through me, if nothing happens but I will it to happen, here's what happens. And there were, I still keep in my library the product brochure for the original Next Cube, and it's still a fascinating object because it describes what every computer would have built in about 3 or 4 years after the launch of this Next Cube. But nonetheless, it's been well documented that he made a lot of what to an outsider would think are very, very silly decisions that had nothing to do with launching a successful product and had more to do with things like design woo-woo and here's how I want to express this thought, as opposed to creating something that my customer is going to really, really like. And then when you fast forward to comparing, let's say the iMac to this, the iMac was as freaky in its way as the Next Cube. However, it was a practical computer that was not only going to make that emotional connection and that emotional appeal to people, but once they bought the thing, they were going to find themselves in owning a very, very cool, very, very capable, very, very useful piece of hardware. After they'll have to buy an external floppy drive to make it work, but who cares? It's such a beautiful thing. I just think that there are three different expressions of what Steve, if this is a story about Steve Jobs, not about Apple, and these are two different things, I think that this is the best expression of here's who he was. Here's the Steve Jobs that was capable of doing the launch of the first Mac. Here's the Steve Jobs that created or had a hand in the Next Cube, and here's the Steve Jobs later. Three very, very different people.
It's a good arc, if nothing else. It's a very clear linear narrative and a good journey to show like the heights of the Mac and then arguably the lows of Next and then the heights again when he's starting to take off.
All right, let's watch this silly thing.
At 9:41, the planet's
Prometheus was better than you thought it was, Leo. Okay.
All right, let me rewind one more time. I got to hear this.
Shift on its axis.
I don't understand this first sentence at all.
At 9:41, the planet's going to shift on its axis 9 forever. Two most significant events of the 20th century. The Allies win the war, and this.
You can't write code. You are not an engineer. What do you do?
That's, by the way, Seth Rogen as Woz. You can't write code. You're not an engineer. I doubt very much Woz ever said anything like that.
Yeah.
What do you do? He knew exactly what Steve did, and I'm sure was grateful.
The musicians play the instruments. I play the orchestra. I sat in a garage and invented the future. Because artists lead and hacks ask for a show of hands.
I love that you don't care how much money a person makes. You care what they make.
By the way, that is, I know that's a person, but it's a person not commonly talked about in, this is Kate Winslet's role as, is it Joanna Hoffman? Is that who she's playing? Early Mac team member, who really is a footnote at best, but for some, I guess Sorkin wanted a woman in it. I don't know.
But what you make isn't supposed to be the best part of you.
You're the only one who sees the world the same way I do. No one sees the world the same way you do.
Yeah.
Can we argue about that font choice? I think we can argue about that.
And I have to say, Fassbender, Jeff Daniels plays John Scully, by the way. Fassbender, to me, I don't know. Well, he's got
Magneto.
He was great in Band of Brothers. I also liked him in Prometheus.
He's a great actor. I'm not knocking.
I liked it. A lot of people have been saying that doesn't sound like Steve Jobs. To me, I don't. You don't really. The point of the purpose of being an actor is to not look and sound exactly like the person. The point is to convince you that to accept that. Same reason why it doesn't make it doesn't. It's not an argument that in the new Fantastic Four movie, Johnny Storm, the Human Torch, is an African American, played by an African American actor. Is an African American character. He will convince you of that. What I liked about those clips is that I really feel as though he got the cadence, he got the music of the way that he spoke in his public speeches down. So I mean,
Ashton Kutcher looked like Steve Jobs, but was a terrible actor. So I think if you give him the choice,
the whole I'm not even sure how much I'd blame. There's so much blame to go around for that movie, including the fast forward of he tearfully got kicked out of Apple, and then fast forward to a jillion years later when Apple is begging Steve Jobs to come back. Oh well, there was this thing called Next between those two that
choosing an actor for their looks is not important, but it is important that they embody the person. I mean, that they feel like the person. Somebody's saying, what is this going on with this reducing screen? Is it reducing everything to the aspect ratio of the iPhone? Is that what's going on here? Vertical video,
fitting it into an eye.
I love that you don't care how much money.
It's fitting into the eye.
What they make.
No,
but what
at
you
some
make
point you need to
isn't
just.
supposed to be the best.
It's because they don't have any footage. Is what it is.
And then it turns into the eye, and then
it's because they have no footage.
Flashing cursor.
No, you're right. Flashing cursor.
It's just a teaser. It's not a.
But it's so hard to judge based on a few random lines without any context.
Yeah.
There were a bunch of journalists incensed that they were showing flash bulbs during this.
Yeah, there's no flash bulbs.
Look at him go.
What is that?
but is it? I was looking at that too because I was assuming it was a one of the iOS releases, and I'm thinking, well, if this was the iMac release, this is a room full of people who are just like people with their own personal pocket cameras, and they have automatic like xenon flashes, their film cameras. So if it didn't happen in the room that way, it's okay for them to stage it so that people have old-timey flashes as opposed to glow of white.
First of all, this is the Flint Center. If you look at that's a Mac, obviously.
That looks like an iMac.
Except that Jobs is wearing jeans and a turtleneck, and of course, quite famously, the Mac launch is wearing a bow tie.
That's the iMac launch, which is also at the Flint Center, and he was recognizably.
Okay, so this would be the iMac.
All right, where's the Zapruder?
But did they have
back into the left?
Did they have flash
bulbs?
Are
those 903s or 905s? Because they're very, very similar, but one has an American flag on the heel, and the other one does not.
I'm completely willing to tear this film from limb to limb. I don't have a problem with that.
That was going through my mind as well as I'm watching this. That I might be like people like us might be the worst people to ask about this movie because like I was
we were there.
In some cases, we were there. In all cases, we were intimately connected to the event, either through by devouring all the details that was happening or knowing people who were materially involved in it. And so we're the people that are going to say, the paneling on the floor was from backstage to the front stage, not from stage left to stage right.
I said teak.
Fail.
Yeah.
Also, the iMac launch happened when Apple was at its low point, and they were desperately trying to get people to show up to the event. It was definitely not a blackened auditorium with flash bulbs and people excitement.
Jason,
I mean, it is pretty funny.
Go right here because you could see Bondi Blue iMacs backstage. So we do know this is in fact the iMac.
It's just kind of funny that what's happening here, and you're absolutely right, we're the wrong people to look at this, but what's happening here is compression, dramatic compression. Yeah. It's taking, because we know what happens after this point to Jobs and Apple, we're taking all of the excitement of a WWDC keynote or an iPhone launch or something like that, and we're rolling it back into this moment. So this is the dramatic license of saying, this event wasn't like this, but it led to all those events that were like this. And, so it's not accurate, but that's what they're trying to portray.
Steve's first product after he came back to Apple. This is an Apple that was very much struggling.
Maybe somebody pulled the fire alarm, and that's what's going off in that
shot. Very weird. Meanwhile, Pitch Perfect 2 comes out on Friday. I just want to point out, I'm very excited. It came out last week. Oh, that was last week? Oh, my God.
It's already out.
That's too good a movie. I think I'll go back.
Let's break down the Ant-Man trailer now. Are we doing trailers on this show now?
No. Stop.
When Thomas the Tank Engine hits Yellow Jacket, it's just super. That's
the best. Let's all take a second to reflect upon how grateful we should be for this movie and what it means to us. It means that we can when we need to write a column on a Tuesday or a Thursday, we can write about here's what the movie doesn't discuss.
Yes. Yeah, you've got 30,000
on a Thursday when you're hard up for ideas.
30,000 words, no sweat.
Fassbender.
Coherent Navigation. What is that? Apple just bought it.
The GPS company that was trying to make GPS more accurate down to centimeters instead of feet.
Oh, okay. It's not indoors. It's.
I think it has a wide range of applications. Often they just surface one to make
commercial navigation services based on partnerships with companies like Boeing and Iridium, the satellite network operator. According to the LinkedIn page of Paul Lego, the company's former chief executive, was founded in 2008. High-precision navigation systems, technology far stronger than many consumer-grade GPS systems. They'd also worked on autonomous navigation and robotics projects.
I think they coalesce a bunch of lower-level satellite data as well to try and make it more accurate.
Okay. It may just be also they're acquiring the minds, the great, brilliant minds behind it.
There's a 10-person team, and I believe some of them, if not after the sale, then before the sale, there was a lot of migration towards Apple already. So it does sound almost like that. And for Apple's part, all they would say again is Apple acquires companies from time to time, and we don't discuss plans.
That's the usual.
Which is as good of a confirmation as you can get.
So remember when Greenpeace used to be every year they'd be ragging on Apple. Now Greenpeace says Apple's green. They're the greenest company ever, the most eco-friendly tech company in the world. But that Netflix and YouTube, those guys is bad news.
Please print our press release. Please print our press release.
That's funny. I think that a few years ago they knew that they can get a lot of press by saying that Apple, specifically Apple, sucks. Now they know that they can get people to retweet if they say, "Oh, Apple's doing great."
It's just whatever, Look, I'm all for keeping the planet green or making, because it ain't. But you can't now. It makes you cynical when you start to see this kind of stuff. It's like, oh yeah, well, Netflix is hot right now. Apparently, by watching Netflix, you're ruining the ecosystem. Apple gets 100% on its clean energy index. Google only 46%.
Well, it is an interesting story that from the day that Greenpeace did that, and yes, they picked Apple specifically, not because any of its competitors were any better,
right,
but because Apple was high profile. But it's interesting, I would say almost textbook, depending on what class you're taking anyway, that Apple immediately said, okay, tell us what you think we should be doing. And now
that's the way to handle it.
There's a slide in every presentation about the hardware and what it, its checklists of toxic elements and whether it's recyclable. And they have invested in solar and they've done it. And it's funny that this is like the capper is Greenpeace saying, yep, okay, they changed. On to the next target.
Right.
So are they saying that Google powers search off of coal? Is that what
basically, yeah. In fact, both Google and Apple have moved very aggressively to make their network operation centers as green as they can, either buying carbon credits or in some cases using actual solar power to power them. Yeah. Apple, speaking of lightning, is now making a lightning dock for your iPhone.
That's a little surprising, isn't it?
Why did it take them so long? The 30-pin dock is great.
Life's great mysteries, Leo.
I could put my iPhone in there, and it would hold it. The problem is that nobody licenses Lightning, so you were kind of out of luck if you wanted a Lightning dock.
Yeah, there's Lightning. There's Lightning stuff out there. Oh yeah.
MFI plus docks that capture your existing cable.
Is this the best Lightning dock Apple has ever made?
It is the best
and
Lightning
worst
dock Apple has ever made.
It's the best, it's the worst, it's the averagest.
We'd like to show you a video explaining why we chose that angle.
My issue is if you really put the phone
just
or you notice it doesn't have a slot.
That's what I was wondering. There's no side, so I wonder if I could just totally abuse the structural integrity of that connector.
I feel like it would break it off if you put an iPad on it, right? I think iPhone 6 might break it off. It doesn't seem like a very good structurally good idea.
5S, 6 Plus.
Yeah.
It's also interesting because I'm certainly wondering how committed Apple's going to be to USB-C, and if we're going to see that as the one connector you're going to, the only thing you're going to need for your iPad, for your iPhone, for your laptop. So it's interesting that they're debuting a brand new dock connector that clearly they didn't think it was a high priority, or else they would have tried to get this out earlier. I mean,
like
how
3
long
years
is Lightning
ago
out there? Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting.
This has a Lightning connector in the back, so you plug it in, and then it has an analog audio port, so you could put your headphones on it, I guess.
Or like attach it to a speaker.
Yeah.
And you pop it
Lightning
in.
can still do way more than USB-C. I mean, they're similar in many ways, but Lightning still has all the intelligent switching and can carry, I believe, more different types of signals that Apple wants. I mean, it used to take a 30-pin dock connector, and they had to rearrange that thing. Like they'd go in and disconnect linear audio and try to reconnect FireWire, and it would always be structurally different inside, and the diagrams became more nightmarish as time went on. So Lightning was really designed to be future-proof, so that if there was some new sort of signal they had to carry, they would never have to refactor the hardware, just change the kind of signal that was passing through it. And I don't think USB-C does all of that. And the standardization makes it a better choice for the MacBook, but I think the flexibility makes it a better choice for them for the mobile still.
That's absolutely true. The thing is, though, what can they attach to that dock connector through a phone that people are actually going to clamor to use that would benefit them better than having one standard connector that they can transfer between multiple devices, including their Android devices, including their Windows devices? I mean, I had to remind myself while I was on a trip that the iPhone 6 and the 6 Plus has a Lightning connector, but you can plug in the camera kit, but it doesn't do nothing. And why aren't they doing things like enabling the camera connection kit? Let me slurp photos directly from my camera directly onto the device. It's interesting. You'll go broke trying to predict what Apple is has planned or is investigating, but hasn't been able to announce yet. So who knows, like what they intend to do with Lightning in the future. But for now, I can only think of about 3 or 4 different things that people ever would like to plug into their phone, and USB-C is more than adequate for all of them.
That color white in that adapter took 3 years of engineering.
It's not just gold-plated.
I just want to give Apple some credit.
Special formulation.
They could easily charge $79 for this. They're only charging $39. They're leaving money on the table, so you got to give them some credit.
Yeah.
By the way, syncs and charges, okay? Both.
They figure we're already charging $150 for a watch band. You probably don't have enough money left for a $79 dock.
I was making fun of the watch bands, and then Vince Nagoyan from Flash Gear was showing off some of the Panerai and other bands that he was putting on his Apple Watch with third-party lugs, and none of them were under $300 or $400. So I vastly underestimated the expense of watch bands in this market.
No. You misunderstand. It's not the expense; it's the margin.
Okay.
Well, I mean, fancy schmancy watch bands.
Right.
I mean,
it's margin. It's all about margin.
I was showing my last morning wearing a Moto 360 was this morning, and I had breakfast with a friend, and I was showing him here's what the magical Horween leather watch band that you get with Moto 360, but here's what it looks like after like 9 months of daily wear, and it looks beautiful and it's supple and it looks like a very prestigious sort of luxury sort of experience, and it's the watch brand you get for free.
Yep.
Just saying.
It's fine Corinthian leather.
I didn't know the word Horween until Apple came along. I just want to say. Now I look for Horween everywhere.
I only wear Corinthian leather. I'm sorry, Corinthian leather. Ricardo Montalban.
Fine Corinthian leather. I just learned that Cordovan is made from horse butt. So just, I'm not a leather expert, obviously. Apparently, President Obama, who for the first time ever actually has his own Twitter account. There was a president account.
White House account.
White House account.
Now we've got POTUS.
But
so wait, there was a White House account and a Barack Obama account, neither of which was his, but the one called POTUS is his. Even though it's not his name, it's his office.
Which is really weird because what is he going to take it with him? He should take back Barack Obama and give POTUS to the Oval Office and say whoever's in charge.
I think that's what.
Did you see Bill Clinton's tweet, Leo?
Whose?
Bill Clinton, he asked if the POTUS account would transfer to the new owner, and then and he said asking for a friend, and then Barack Obama responded. He said yes, the account goes with the house.
Yeah, the account comes with the house.
Anyone, the $50 burrito gift card.
That is an excellent tweet for Bill Clinton. I'm asking for a friend.
Obama replied that the account goes with the house, and did Clinton have any ideas on who should be a good FLOTUS?
Wow. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah. He wants the FLOTUS account.
Yep.
FMOTUS. He's going to be a FMOTUS.
What are you going to call
First Gentleman?
First Gentleman? It's already been decided? The Canadian knows, and I don't.
It was a West Wing joke at some point, I think.
First Gentleman.
And there was a woman prime minister in Canada briefly.
Yeah, Kim Campbell.
So you guys know.
Fagotis is not a good... That sounds like a skin disease.
Dude. First dude.
First dude. Fadotis?
Yep.
Apparently, President Obama still does use a secure BlackBerry, so in fact, he could not tweet from his phone. So the White House won't say if it's Twitter compatible, but according to BuzzFeed, he tweeted with Twitter for iPhone, so he probably borrowed somebody's iPhone.
They have a government iPhone for that department. The Department of Obama tweeting has its own iPhone.
Yeah, it's probably got a sticker on the back that says @POTUS. It's the @POTUS phone. That's all it does.
The @POTUS phone. It's all it can do.
It's probably like one of those development iPhones you hear about where it's actually like inside Apple, it's like actually bolted down to a plate of acrylic that's about 3 feet by 4 feet with
nowhere
bolts
near the
holding
bar.
it in, so that you can't take it out of the office and you can't pretend that, I'm sorry, I must have switched phones with you accidentally, Obama.
It sounds like being president's a good job, but it really sucks. He cannot, for instance, have a phone he told Jimmy Kimmel, I can't have a phone with a recorder in it.
No.
Which means no camera.
Yeah.
Well, but the difference is that, like, if you're president, you never have to touch a phone.
You don't really
you never have to touch a computer.
Leo, he has a phone that when he says "I'm ready," the engines on Air Force One start. That's a heck of a feature.
I wonder if SmartThings has an interface to Air Force One. That would be good. Start the jet.
So someone was writing a really thoughtful essay I read about 6 or 7 months ago about how being the president, especially for 2 terms, changes you, and that disconnects you from everyday reality. And that he said, just think about it this way: for the past 6 years, the president has never had pocket change in his pants. That he has never waited in traffic for even 5 seconds because everything is held for him. And
until he says NFC payments. I mean, it's a whole new world out there.
It's going to be tough when, a year from now, President Obama has to leave office and has to start carrying change again.
Well, there's a strange thing that happens to Apple employees when they leave Apple. Some of them don't know how to buy phones because they've always just been provided to them, and having to deal with AT&T to them is just like they have no idea how normal people have ever survived like this.
So there's sort of a halfway house program. you live in San Jose, not in Cupertino, and.
Let's take a break and we'll come back with your final thoughts and your pick of the week. How about that? I guess we could. There are a couple of things we could mention. That there is a Safari address spoofing bug. It's not. I don't think hugely significant, but it is in iOS and OS 10. Using a fairly simple JavaScript, a bad guy could take you to one site but report that you're at another site in the address bar, and that would be bad. But I don't know if it would fool the certificate system. So if you're giving people important information, check the certificate. That seems like that would be a good idea, at least until Apple fixes this. Our show today brought to you by IT Pro TV. My friends Tim and Don, and I do consider them friends because they've come out here a lot, and we kind of were there at the beginning. They've been IT trainers for a long time, and they came out to an NAB talk I did about 3 years ago, and they said, we should get a TriCaster, we should get some cameras, we should get a studio, do what Leo's doing, but for IT professionals or people who are looking to get their certifications. And they created IT Pro TV. And of course, as always, the pupil has exceeded the master. They have 2 studios on their way to 5. They're doing now 50 hours of new programming a week. Streamed live and available on demand worldwide, Roku, Chromecast, computer to mobile device. They cover everything. A+, IT with Apple and Windows, OS 10, Windows and Linux desktop support, CCNA, Security Plus MCSA. They've got the new Ethical Hacker, Hacking Forensics Investigator, and Cryptography courses taught by Sean Philip Oriano. That was great. This is live right now? Wow. They really built a beautiful set. And they do a lot of great stuff. Sean, who teaches those courses, is the guy who wrote the book, actually, on ethical hacking. Now they've added a search function to the site, which lets you search all courses and videos for specific topics and quick answers. They've always divided the courses up into kind of the chapters and the questions in the book in the test. And by the way, you also get the Measure Up practice exams as part of your subscription. That's worth $79 by itself. The Virtual Machine Sandbox Lab, so you can start a Windows server and clients, even if you're on any machine, even if you're on a Chromebook, because any HTML5 browser works. The members area now highlights recent course editions and allows you to resume episodes where you left off. Remembers where you were. Look at that. CompTIA, Microsoft, Cisco, ISC Squared, the great list of Apple courses they have. And you only pay by the month or by the year. It's very affordable. Updated daily, new features monthly. There's a no-hassle cancellation policy because they're geeks and they know. We're not trying to trick you. We're trying to give you something of real value. They also have corporate and group pricing. And, since IT Pros TV started, now they've got clients including Harvard, MIT, UCSD, Stanford. So here's the deal. We got a deal. Of course we got a deal. itpro.tv/MacBreak. Normally $57 a month or $570 for the entire year. You're going to get a free 7-day trial when you visit. And if you use the offer code MacBreak30, MacBreak30, you're going to get 30% off your subscription forever. Less than $40 a month. $399 for the entire year. MacBreak30. All this week they're recording. In fact, I think we were just watching it. New Cloud and Net Plus courses. That's Don Pezzett and Daniel Lowry. I guess we saw Daniel there. Their live stream is always available for free, which is awesome, with a basic account, the free basic account. So from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern every weekday, you can watch them teach these courses free. That'll give you a great idea of what kinds of stuff you're going to get. And, of course, once you sign up, you get every course they've ever done. Next week, Intro to Security and more Net Plus courses. itpro.tv/MacBreak. Don't forget the offer code MacBreak30. And they've done so well. I feel like that's one of our great success stories. When they started with us, they were just starting out, and they have grown like Topsy. All right. Time for picks of the week. Why don't we start with our in-studio guest, Mr. Jason Snell.
This is hot off the presses, hot from the App Store. pCalc, the calculator app for your iPhone, is now at version 3.4, which features
watch support. Are you going to do a calculation?
A calculator.
Oh,
I don't know.
Wait
if
a minute.
I can.
That is awesome. Let me
show that.
Yeah. Do I have pCalc on here? No, I don't.
But it's a calculator, and it works. And James Thompson, who developed it, waited until he got the physical, watch hardware because he was not convinced that it would work, and he worked on it for a while to get it to work.
Must be hard to do, right? Because you don't get
there's not a lot of space on there, but he figured out a way to do it. So if you want quick calculations on your Apple Watch, pCalc, not only being a great calculator app for the iPhone, but now it has a watch app that comes with it. So I think that's a pretty cool thing.
I think that's pretty useful.
Just like it's an app that actually does something. It doesn't do a lot, but it does basic calculations and has a tip calculator, and that's kind of cool that you can even do that on the Apple Watch with the 1.0 version of the app interface. So I like the fact that he waited until he had an Apple Watch, because he was really I actually got to visit him in Scotland a few weeks ago, and he was not convinced that it would work on the watch. He just didn't believe it would be a good experience, and I like the fact that he took the time, found a way to make it work, and now has a version of his app that runs on the watch.
So pCalc, it's the best calculator from TLA Systems. I see they have a light version which also offers a watch app, so you could, if you wanted to see. But I bought it. It's great, and he was the guy who had trouble with the notifications.
He is that guy.
Yeah. It does now.
Yeah, you can do calculator in the Today View and on the Mac and on iOS.
Thank you. This is, you know what? If you had a Casio calculator watch, you'll feel right at home.
You will. You
I
really
hope you
will.
saved your stylus.
And you can actually send your result to the app on your phone, or pull the answer off of your phone and stuff like that too.
Oh, that's cool. Oh, that's cool.
And this was going to be Rene's pick, so thank you, Rene, for letting me steal it. I snaked it from him.
Did he steal your tip?
No, Jason does this way better than I do. So,
well, you know what? While you were talking, Jason, I did install it. How long does it take for an app once you put it on the phone to go over to your watch? Is it instant?
It's a few seconds.
Instant-ish.
I actually installed pCalc myself, like just at the start of the show, maybe, and it took maybe 20, 30 seconds to arrive. You see, at worst, you see the sort of generic.
It hasn't installed yet, I guess. Well, maybe because of the space.
Check your phone. It should say installing on your phone and then installed once it's on there.
Oh, in the Watch app?
Please stand by.
Yeah.
Please stand by.
It's probably there already by the time you do it.
Yeah, and it's busy now installing an update, which it's not going to install until I get up.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, that's why.
All right.
Did you use the Watch app to transfer it over, Leo?
Huh?
Did you use the Apple Watch app to transfer it over?
No, what? What are you talking about? Apple Watch app to transfer it over?
You got to
Doesn't it
enable
just do
the
it
watch
automatically?
It might depend on your settings.
Oh, yeah. I automatically download apps. I have that switch flipped. When this is on and you have apps on your iPhone that also work with the Apple Watch, these apps will automatically blah, blah, blah. And I should, if I go down here, see pCalc in my list, right? Yeah, there it is. Oh, I can have it in glances.
Yeah, the glance isn't that interesting. It sort of just tells you what your answers were on your phone and your watch.
Once.
Because you can't do buttons from the glance if you're a third-party developer.
But those of us with no short-term memory appreciate it.
Oh, I keep pressing the wrong button.
Look for the 42.
Launch pCalc. I said pCalc fast so they wouldn't put a space in there. Hey, it did it. It just wasn't ready yet.
It's a
oh,
calculator.
look at that.
You can do some calculating.
I wish that were my watch face.
I was about to say, I want that as a watch face.
1, 2.
And I want skeuomorphism. I want it to look LCD.
Oh, yeah. Oh, these are the operators. Times 1, 2, 2, 1.2. It's got a backspace and everything. Very nice. I keep hitting.
So if you've ever wanted a calculator like you had when you were 14 on your wrist, there it is.
Now they're not going to let watches into the exam room. Thank you, Jason Snell.
You still can't impress boys or girls with it if you're trying to.
Ihnatko, what do you got for us?
Calculator. I'm wearing my pick of the week, which is a very weird one, but I think that a part of our audience is going to be very, very happy to hear about this. I bought this jacket on eBay a few weeks ago. I'm a big fan of like what I call cheater jackets, where you need to sort of look a little bit more dressed up than if you're just wearing like a work shirt or something, but you still don't, either you'd be overdressed in a suit or you don't want to be, you don't have to walk around the city all day in like an actual like structured jacket. So I like these cheater jackets. They're almost built like a shirt, but they're tailored like a sport coat. And so this one is it's called the Orvis Zambezi safari coat.
I like Orvis stuff actually.
Exactly. It's really well made. It's vintage. It's maybe about 5 or 6 years old. They don't make these anymore. Oh. I got this one on eBay for $50. But why is it a pick of the week, Andy, you ask? Because of a feature I was not aware of until I actually bought it. Now, realize this is, now you think that I'm just like
you look like you're going birding.
I'm just a man about town, aren't I? Oh yes, but no. I am a slick, sophisticated journalist who has his iPad mini with him.
Look at that. I'm buying one. I want one.
Perfect. It's the perfect size for an iPad mini.
And it predates it.
It's not like you can just jam it in there. I'm saying it's tailor-made for an iPad mini. And it has a couple extra pockets too. So, hey, what's this? Why, I think it's my Bluetooth folding iPad keyboard.
You are such a nerd.
I am a nerd in a really cool jacket who does not have to carry a bag with him all the time.
Oh,
I mean, there are other jackets that are like tech jackets that are, hey, we've got 1 million pockets and you never have to like check carry on baggage, but it has enough it's just a nice coincidence that it's nicely kitted out for somebody who travels with technology, and walking down the street in it, unlike some of these other like tech oriented jackets, it just looks like a normal blazer. It doesn't look like, hey, who's that guy who clearly has a 13-inch iPad Air in the small of his back and about 10 miles of cable going around his neck.
Right.
So the only other note, Orvis made this coat for a number of years. They don't make it anymore. On the off chance that they change the design from year to year and maybe the fun pocket isn't the right size, there's a tag inside the collar that says 70534 on this jacket. So that's if you can see pictures on eBay and you see that number on the inside of the tag, you're probably on the right track. Even if it's the wrong one, it's still a very nice jacket. It's also machine washable. You can like crumple it up and stick it into a bag. And it's nice. My trip to New York was for the Asus product launch of the new Zenfone, and I was interviewing like the CEO of the company for like 45 minutes, and I feel like I got away with it very nicely. It does. You look like an idiot if you're in a suit, but you want to look like, hi, I appreciate that your time is valuable and you're giving me some of it. So hey, look, I actually decided to button at least not the top button of my shirt, but at least like the second, so that you can't see the logo on my podcast T-shirt.
I actually really like that. I'm sad they don't make it.
As a matter of fact, I was getting some compliments about it later on in the day when I was hanging out with friends. Like, oh, where do you get that jacket?
It fits your personality. It really does.
Again, it's nice and casual. Oh, the last note is that now, obviously, my physique doesn't look like I would fit into a large of anything, but this is a large and it's absolutely the perfect size. So if you see one that if you see one that you want to get like the extra large, maybe you want to get one size smaller. I don't know, because it's not designed to be a really tailored, structured jacket, so it looks like it's kind of roomy. But yeah, paid $50 or $60 for it, and it's clearly after 3 weeks, it's like one of the favorite things I got.
Oh, you didn't tell me it has leather patches on the elbows.
It's got leather patches, baby. But also, it has a secret feature where like you can button it all. Let's say you get caught and it's a little bit too cold. You can turn up this collar, and then this thing on the side, it's not just decorative. You can actually unbutton that and like make it into like a clerical collar that will keep like the top of the thing and turn into like sort of a stalker jacket.
Like a Nehru jacket, yeah.
Or like Luke Skywalker in Bespin Cloud City. I like to say.
That's I want this.
Is that true?
So they don't sell it, but you can maybe find it on eBay. I'm looking on Etsy to see if Etsy has any. And
it's actually like if you go on eBay, like I came up with about like a half dozen listings, and they keep coming. I've got like an eBay search for like travel jacket because I like these kinds of jackets, and I see these coming up all the time.
Okay. And what was the I got the number, but what is the name of it?
It's called Orvis Zambezi, Zambezi, safari coat. Although if you do just searches for Orvis jacket, you'll recognize it.
Here it is. Here it is on eBay. Size XL. And you said you have the X. Wait a minute. It's in that weird Luke Skywalker mode.
Exactly. Or it looks like, a flasher who's not really concerned with covering up. That's not the most attractive deployment of that jacket, but when you're
Is this the same one?
It looks like the same model.
Doesn't have the leather little tablets on that you have on your collars though.
No, look, doesn't it?
Does it?
Or maybe it's there, but remember this
the piping.
Remember that this collar like detaches. I'm sorry, there it is. It's actually buttoned on, so maybe just whoever it is took that off and just lost. Oh no, there it is in another picture.
See, there it is. I see it. Yeah. That is really. I want it. And if you get it used, then it feels like you've had it for a long time. Exactly.
I mean mine is in good shape and it doesn't look like it's shiny and brand new.
Yeah, that's nice. You don't want it.
It's one of the nicest things I've bought. I heard someone talking about this in some sort of a menswear forum because I was doing some more searches on it before this. I said, too bad it's only available in old man color. And I'm like, hey man, it's tan, it's twill, it's classic.
Old man color. What the hell? All right, Rene Ritchie. You're going to have to top the Orvis Zambezi travel jacket.
No chance. Absolutely no chance. So I initially was looking at PCalc for the Apple Watch, and I was looking at the new Audible app, which has CarPlay support, as sort of two sides of a really interesting coin, because these are established apps, and you can use them on your iPhone, but they're also going other places. You can use PCalc on your watch. You can use a variety of things that come from your iPhone on your watch. And now, for example, with Audible on CarPlay or Overcast on CarPlay, you can use those on your car as well. And I think we've spoken about this before, but it's really fascinating to me that what happened with web technologies, where originally you had a web browser, but then you just started having little bits of HTTP or internet functionality sort of everywhere in the system and in apps. That's now happening with apps as well, with UIKit, especially on Apple, where the logic of the app is sitting on your phone, but the interface can be on your watch, or it can be in your car, or conceivably can be on the Apple television. And it's sort of unbundled all these features. Before you download this big hunkin' app and you just use it as that app. But now all these different features are in different places. So I can listen to Audible on CarPlay. I can share something that I'm listening to on Audible, maybe through Pinterest. All these little things that used to be one giant whole are now just available everywhere that I am. And that, to me, is super exciting. It's changing the way that I use a ton of applications because I don't have to go and find them anymore. They're just wherever I am. So the Audible app, it's a really good update for a variety of reasons. But the fact that Audible is now, if you have a CarPlay car, is just going to be one of those icons on your dashboard. I used to commute an hour and a half each way to work, and Audible and Twitch shows were my constant companion. And the ability to have it not have to use Siri or even look down to my phone. In Montreal now, it's illegal to use your phone not only while driving, but even while stopped at a red light, while pulled off to the side of the road. All of that will get you a ticket. So the ability for that functionality to move to a nice legal place like the dashboard, to me, is awesome. And I really like the sort of potential where all these things get lined up and where it's going to go. And I think things like Audible for CarPlay are a big example of that.
Does anybody have CarPlay yet?
There are some units that are available, and Ferrari just rolled out
replacement third-party head.
There are some,
but no car yet.
The auto industry is glacial, and the update cycle makes the iPad update cycle look brisk.
If they're beating Audible's app, if Audible is beating them, that tells you something. Because Audible doesn't update this a lot, but boy, looks like a lot of new features in this new version 2.5. I really want Chromecast or some way to throw it to my Sonos.
It's really easy to add. So it's interesting. Like Sonos doesn't support Apple Play, and there's a lot of people who haven't supported Chromecast, even though everyone who has implemented says it's super easy to implement. So I think it's just incumbent on us to complain about it.
Please, Audible, we love you, but I just want to be able to throw it to my Sonos so I can listen. I can throw it to my stereo, but I can't throw it to my. Cool. I don't have anything. I'm just going to let you all own this because I am busy buying a Zambezi twill cotton canvas jacket.
Is it an old man color?
It's the only color it comes in.
Yep, unfortunately.
That's the one, isn't it, Andy? That's it. I could tell.
Yep.
Oh, it's got the tabs. It's got everything.
It costs $200. They sold it for $200 when they had it on the site.
Yeah, it's $99, and
all you need is a pith helmet, Leo.
I have a pith helmet.
Awesome.
Yes, I'm ready.
And Leo, I don't want to ruin your home relationship, but while I was looking for like that listing to like include as the URL, I found out that they actually made matching Zambezi pants that also have like leather patches over the pockets and stuff.
Yeah, I know if I wear this anywhere, Lisa's just going to disown me entirely. You're not the man I married. Out. Pith helmet. I like that. Andy Ihnatko's at the Chicago Sun-Times. Not only is he a natty dresser, he's a hell of a good writer, and you can read his stuff there. And, of course, on his website, cwob.com, at Ihnatko, Ihnatko. Andrew, thank you so much for being here. Jason Snell made the trek up the river to join us. We appreciate it.
Brought my kayak.
You could almost kayak here.
Probably could, yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be really cool. Tired, man. Boy, are my arms tired.
Always great to have you. He is working. Your arms are tired. You've been working awfully hard lately at
sixcolors.com.
Sixcolors.com and the Incomparable. And geez Louise, great stuff.
Thank you.
I'm going to listen to the Letterman tonight.
Get you in the mood.
Get me in the mood. I've been TiVoing the last few. Actually, I have been TiVoing Letterman for a long time. I wish I'd been TiVoing. I wish I had a closet full of Letterman VHS tapes.
Well, I'll tell you, they're all on YouTube.
Are they?
There are lots.
Yeah.
I have been capturing every single one of them for the past like month or two.
Yes.
Off of my DVR using that FireWire capture app that I picked about a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm gonna need to go through the transition program. I can't go cold turkey. I'm gonna have to like every night at 11:30. I stop my work as usual, take a break, watch an old show.
Yeah.
I'll pretend it's a rerun week. I'll pretend it's the Indianapolis 500 where it's gonna be 10 nights in which he's gone, and then it's just gonna be really hard.
That's what makes me sad. You know, these should be on Netflix. The old Tonight shows should be on Netflix, but they don't do that. Yeah. I guess they feel like it's too topical or something that's not worth.
Let us make that choice.
Huh?
Exactly.
Let us make that
decision.
choice. Yeah.
It's like it's not making any money for anybody while it's never being shown to anyone.
Right.
So.
Right. Well, maybe from your mouth to.
Sometimes it's music licensing, like they can't show, especially variety performances, because they don't have the rights to show the music again.
Yeah, that's probably what it is, isn't it? The voice of reason, as always, that's Mr. Rene Ritchie from imore.com. You can bet he's not wearing Orvis fishing pants.
Snow pants.
Snow pants. It's warming up there, I hope.
No, yeah, what is it now? It's like, I don't know, 20 something degrees today.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's centigrade, not Fahrenheit. Yeah.
That's Her Majesty's measurements.
Thank you for being here. He also does a bunch of great podcasts. You know, they're on an upswing now, podcasts.
I hear that.
I've heard.
It seems like everybody's doing it. Everybody.
You should do one, Leo.
You're a pioneer. Aren't you in the Podcasting Hall of Fame now?
Oh, yeah. When did that happen? Did that happen? Or is it happening?
Or it's happening, maybe.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for being here. We love doing this show, and I hope you will make an effort to be here live because it's fun to see you in the chat room or in the studio. You can email tickets at twit.tv if you'd like to join us for any of our shows. The studio is always open. But you can also join the chat room without emailing. Just visit irc.twit.tv. Every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, 1800 UTC. If you can't be here live, on-demand audio and video always available after the fact at twit.tv/mbw or wherever netcasts are aggregated. Thanks for joining us. Now get back to work because you know what? Break time is over. Over.